You have heard so many incredible speeches today, and you're just really here to pick up your diploma. And then you have things to do, and you need to go home. But I'm just so delighted to be here to have a few more moments with you, and I'm going to be brief. As Roger said, it would be good if we don't have to listen to you for too long. Yesterday, I also spoke at the MBA ceremony, and we had a bet. And for every minute that I came in short, I got a Chinese dinner. And I got 2 Chinese dinners. But today, he won't have such a bet. I just want to say, first of all, what a wonderful time. This is a harvest for you, a harvest of very hard work, of sacrifices. It's also a milestone for you, a milestone in a journey about dreams, about hopes, about responsibility, about aspirations. And I just want to say it's been a tremendous privilege that we were a part of this journey. I just want to say, clearly, I wouldn't let this day go by without saying a #1 business school, 3rd time in a row. That's just unbelievable. And we never set out to try to be #1. And in fact, when the Business Week ranking started for undergraduate program, I made a decision to not participate. I was tired of rankings. And I just thought that people forced us to spend too much energy on the wrong thing, because the most important thing is really not about rankings, is what we do for our students. And that it was an act of protest, I said, that we would not participate. But fortunately, my staff had better sense than I did. They said, Carolyn, you'll be spending a lot of time explaining why we're not in the rankings. So I said, oh, gosh, who wants to do that? All right, so we went into the rankings. And we were first #3, and then #7, and then we were #3, then we were #2, and then I made up in my mind that we won't be #1. I just decided that we are a Catholic school. The Blessed Mother wants us to be humble. And so we're not going to get our jollies with that sort of thing. And actually, the way they release rankings is terrible. They start this countdown, starting from like 100 or something like this, or 50. And they count down, and at number 40, they would pause to have a conversation, as if people really wanted a conversation. And then they count down some more, and everybody is just on pins and needles. And I just decided that I would go to 5:15 Mass, that instead of being tortured by these rankings where my whole staff was there. But while I was at Mass, I was making a deal with the Blessed Mother. And that was that #2 is great. I could fall 5 places to #7, because we've been #7 before. And I don't think we would get too much heat if we were just #7. If we don't drop more than 5 places, my life would be okay. And I said, please, no worse than #7. That was my prayer. And just getting myself all ready to deal with this, because in many ways, there are a lot of things working against our rankings. So as you know, we don't have another gate where you have to have a particular GPA or SAT in order to come to the business schools. There are other business schools which do that, all right? So we have various type of headwinds, and I made my peace, and Father Doyle was saying Mass that day, and after that I went to the sacristy, and I said, Father Paul, you're going to see me, be very disappointed. I'm just going to be here with you. I'm going to pull out my cell phone, and you're going to collect me as I just sort of collapse, all right? So I was all ready. I pull out my cell phone without my reading glasses. Who needs reading glasses for bad news anyway, right? So the title of the subject line says, "Come back, let's party." So I pull out my reading glasses to Father Paul, and I said, it says, let's party. And then in the body of the email, it says, we are #1. And I remember I just cried. So and I had all these assumptions about what the Blessed Mother wanted, and I was wrong, right? And Father Paul was by then, 5:45. He had to go to Corby Hall to eat dinner with his buddies and tell them the news. And I dropped by the grotto to say thank you. And I really chalked this to the Blessed Mother. And another group I chalk it to is really my colleagues and wonderful friends, the Mendoza colleagues, the faculty and staff. Please give them a very big hand. And as I said, we didn't start out to be number one, but we start out to do the best that we can do for students. We didn't know what that would look like, but we know when there were things that we could improve. We didn't want to just hear what we do well, we want to hear what we can do better. And when we come against multitude of issues, we'll pick the ones that we could solve and keep working them. Some lend themselves to lower-hanging fruits that we could work on. Some takes a little bit more time. But the whole mentality is what we owe you, our students, and all the parents who make those type of sacrifice. And we want it to be worthy. We want it to be worthy of the talents who walk in our door. We want it to be worthy of the trust that you have put in us. We want it to be worthy as your teachers and people who are supposed to prepare you for your career success. We want it to be worthy. And so our tagline is, where number one is a responsibility. And I share that with you because I don't want you to go out into the world with an attitude of arrogance. I don't want you to be insufferable, and walking around just with your chest puffed. I do want you to be confident. I want you to know that you have come through an education where your faculty, your teachers made you really do your best, that you've been tested, but most important, you've been prepared. And the preparation is not just about today, but is to prepare you for situations you have not encountered, because you now do have the analytical capabilities, you have the intellectual capacity, you have done problem solving, you have worked with a lot of different people, you have seen yourself at your best, you have seen yourself at your worst. And I think if you compare it to when you were 18 years old, just to think about all these jobs that you're going to, and our placement rate is incredibly high. Within about 3 to 4 months, we will clear the whole class with a 98% placement rate. And yeah. And I'll say a little bit more, but you're going into all these leadership positions. You are going into the companies which represent the top in the industry, and people look at you and they will invest in you as their future leaders. And I think always remember that for people to develop you as the future leaders, feel good about it, be confident, not arrogant, know that you could step up to the challenge, but always have a sense of that responsibility. I have to say it was very hard leaving Notre Dame. It was close to the perfect job. We came off the capital campaign really well. You could see a new building coming on. We have recruiters who are always at my door. They always want a higher recruiting slot. I have parents who come and introduce themselves. So it was really excellent. The reason I left and went to Sierras, I think there were a number of different reasons. The first thing is that my 6 years on the board really opened my eyes to the problems and the needs in the world. But I was not just inspired by the needs. I was inspired by the number of talented people who really give up, they made it their career to go and solve these problems. I know the difference between having another day of food when there is a sack of grain that says, from your friends, the U.S. government, courtesy of Catholic Relief Services, that bag of grains is the only thing that they have. And even the burlap sack that they have become, whether it's a pillow, whether they make it into clothes or a curtain. I have seen people with so little. I have seen people nowadays, when there are premature babies, they used to die in very poor countries. But now, because there are hospitals, they don't die, they live. But premature babies face the risk of going blind because of the differential level of oxygen in the mother's womb and in the regular air. So I have seen the difference between babies. If they were born in the US, they would be an incubator. And babies in Armenia, in Vietnam, or whatever it is, premature babies, if they were born premature, they would live, but they would be blind. I have seen business where in extractive industries in Latin America, where their smelting operation has such low environmental controls that children's blood level, 80% of children have cyanide in their blood level. I have been in Ethiopia in greenhouses that grow the roses for us. Sometimes these roses are like $20 for $15. But I've seen the working conditions where it was so poorly ventilated that pesticides and fertilizers create fumes that give people cancer. And they're oftentimes accepting cyanide in children's blood level and cancer in the workers is the deal that people have to pay in order to have work. And I feel like it was the Notre Dame message to you, and that is, do not be afraid. Do not just stay in your comfort zone. Go where there is a need. And I think without Notre Dame, I would not be out there. But the strangest thing that I felt was, I love all of you. I feel like I know you. I feel like I know your family. I feel like I know your fears and your aspirations. And in the strangest way, I feel like I know these people. Even though they don't even have a dollar to their name, many of them live in these makeshift places that may be cardboard or corrugated tin sometimes, where they have no electricity, no food, where nutrition is an issue. Even these people who have so little, I felt like I know them too, just like I know you. I know that they wanted to be saved. I know that they want food. I know that they don't want to be displaced people. I know that they want medicine. I know that fathers and mothers want to see their children grow up. And in the strangest way, I feel like just like you are my family, that they too are my family. And that is all God's family. And so that's why I went. But, and sometimes you have to leave home. And many of you have left home, and you will be going on. But when we leave home, we don't leave our family. So Notre Dame is your family. You heard Father John say that. Notre Dame and the Mendoza College has been my family. And this family, I'm going to take you a little bit on a 2-minute journey with me on CRS work. CRS is actually created by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. It's actually your CRS. It's the Catholic Church CRS. It was started in 1943 to bring refugees out of Eastern Europe. Today, it operates in 100 countries, the toughest of countries. War-torn, fragile, very, very poor. We are in Syria, we are in Egypt, we are in Sudan, where war may break out. We are in Jerusalem, we are in Palestine. And these are really, we're in Afghanistan, we're in Pakistan. We serve over 100 million people. We do work in your name, in emergency relief, in education, in nutrition, food aid, global health, and particularly peace building. Our budget can go up to about $940 million when there is an emergency, and it could go down. We don't just serve the common good. It is important to do it with uncommon excellence. And that looks like from every dollar of revenues we have, 94 cents go into programming. We are subjected to unbelievable metrics and accounting controls because 70% of our funding comes from the U.S. government. We are expected to be at the top of our game because the people who review our proposals, they are all experts. We work with the Gates Foundation, the Buffett Foundation, and a lot of the U.S. Catholics who contribute to us. But the most important thing to remember about CRS is that we serve on the basis of need, not on the basis of creed. Many of the countries we are in have very few Catholics. Egypt may have 1% Catholics. And the reason we serve anybody, and oftentimes we serve in Muslim countries, we serve in India where most people are Hindus, and the reason we do that is because of the gospel. Matthew 25:40, in the bookmark I gave you, when you do this to the least of my brothers, you do it for me. And in fact, Mother Teresa characterized that as the one-handed gospel, and that is, you did it for me. And that is the reason. And oftentimes we represent friendship from the U.S. to countries that otherwise know us for things which are not so cool. So as I leave you, I think that I am not worried about your academic achievement and your professional career progress. But oftentimes when I sit on the stage, I wonder about the other part of our mission. And you know, they describe your education as the education of the mind and the education of the heart. I'm not going to draw on the mind part. That's where we spend 99% of all the explicit work that we do. But I ask myself, have we really done a good job, our part, in preparing your heart? Have we inspired you to care? Have we empowered you to follow intent with action and to not be afraid? Did we effectively get across the message that business is indeed a vocation? It is a solution. It is a necessary good. But in order to achieve that potential, it depends on your moral energies, and it depends on your courage to do the right thing. Did we alert you to the danger and the seduction of the slippery slope, and that you need to hold the line about individual integrity? I tell you a little story about an alum who has become very successful. He's very supportive and generous to Notre Dame. He told me that at one point in his career, he was not doing well, and his liquidity was a problem. And he needed to go get a loan, but he had no assets that he could pledge. And when he went for that loan, he told the banker, he said, I really have no collateral. And the banker said, you are a Notre Dame guy. Your word is good enough. And that's the difference. That's what we want you to be going out with, that your word makes the difference. And so as I leave, my question to you is, your heart, where is it? That is really the distinguishing element about a Notre Dame education. Not only are we good, but we're different than the Ivies because we have expectations of the heart, the development of the heart. And I think I don't want to answer these questions for you, but I want you to hold these questions, that you don't just provide answers in your head or by words, that you provide these answers by the way that you act, that you don't just take on these questions with a sense of trepidation, but with a sense of confidence, that you don't just think about what you will lose when you do the right thing, but you think about what you will gain. And what you will gain is humanity, putting humanity back with the humans. And when we are fully human, we're fully divine, because that's how God made us. And when you transcend your own fears, your own needs, you will be experiencing God's strength, God's grace, and the Holy Spirit. So hold these questions and never let these questions intimidate you. And just like I said, don't approach these as if they are just tough duties. They're things that you will lose. And a good guy, a good gal, where would that person end up? But to think about how important and what you contribute for yourself and for humanity when you do that. So I'm going to end by citing a prayer from Meister Eckhart first, where he said, if the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, it is good enough. And so I end with the prayer at the back of your bookmark, a prayer from Dag Hammarskjöld, who was the Secretary General of the UN, where he says, "For all that has been, thank you. For all that is to come, yes." Go Irish, class of 2012.